Okay, I think we'll start now. Good evening, everybody, and very warm welcome to you all this evening. My name is Professor Eleanor Robson, and I'm the director of the Nahrain Network at University College London. We're based here in London with partners in the British Museum and the Kurdistan Institute for Strategic Research and Strategic Studies and Scientific Research. I'm sure you all know what our aim of the network is, but I'll summarize it very briefly because it has a great bearing on what we're going to do this evening. So we were established in 2017, so gosh, 6.5 years ago now, and we will be going for a similar length of time into the future. And our remit is to support research led by Iraqi researchers into how the past, archaeology, history, and heritage, and related subjects can contribute to making a better future for Iraq, whether that's society, economy, culture, and particularly in the last few years, the environment, as the climate emergency and climate breakdown is becoming a real problem. And within that remit, we have six particular research goals. And one of those is how to raise the profile of Iraqi expertise in the study of the past and in the production of knowledge about the past. Both within Iraq and within the big international academic conversations, and to help international research community understand the conditions in which Iraqi researchers work and their needs and motivations and interests, and the challenges and opportunities they face. And so because of so to further that aim, my colleague, Dr. Mehiar Kadhim, has organized this session this evening. And so thank you very much, Dr. Mehiar, and to Zainab for the practical aspects of this meeting. So we're going to hear from four Iraqi cultural heritage professionals this evening. And they're each going to talk for 10 or 15 minutes in English or in Arabic, and there'll be short translations as we go. There'll be opportunities then for you to ask questions. You can either raise your hand if you want to speak live, but if you'd rather write a question in whichever language you prefer, do that in the Q&A, please, rather than the chat so that we can see it. And Dr. Mehiar will be chairing the session and keeping everyone to time, but I will stay and also make responses to the speakers. So Dr. Mehiar, please, thank you very much indeed for organising, and I'm looking forward to all of our panellists to a very, very interesting discussion this evening.
Thank you very much, Eleanor. And I have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker, Mabast Ali Muhammad Amin, a lecturer in the Department of History in the University of Garmian in Slemani, in the KRI, in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Currently a PhD student at the University of Salahuddin in Erbil. And Mabast completed an MA in Archaeology and Ancient History at the University of Leicester. If you'd like to share your screen, and we can listen to your presentation. If you can unmute yourself, yeah, great, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Yeah, many thanks to Eleanor Robinson and the Naharin Network for the attention to the archaeology and cultural heritage of Iraq and Kurdistan. Thanks also due to Dr. Mahir and Zainab for organizing this webinar. In today's seminar, I'm going to talk about empowering Iraq's young heritage professionals, a call for resources and support. As you can see in the title, the most obvious reasons that have led to the destruction of archaeological sites and cultural heritage in Kurdistan and in Iraq based on the current researches. So the first most destructive factor is economic development, like agricultural related activities, illegal excavation of the sites, like looting, urban development, construction of roads, building like dams. So conflicts and military activities, army shelter and army trench. Environmental sphere, water this. We talk about the distraction of factors in the previous webinar. We pointed out these factors and we talked about it in detail. So I think it might not be necessary to talk about them again. But I do believe that if you could identify the factors of the destruction of archaeological sites, it will help us to identify solutions. So today is a great opportunity for me to propose several solutions which might help to at least mitigate the destruction of archaeological sites. So I want to start with you can see on the screen. A historical mosque with its minaret, which was an important cultural symbol of the region, was flattened in the name of restoration. So on the left side, you can see how it was distracted. So the minaret was considered to be one of the most prestigious landmarks of Hormel town, is a small town close to Halabja province. It's one of the oldest monuments in Kurdistan. The date of its construction is believed to date back to more than 1,000 years ago in Kurdistan. So also many attempts were made to prevent the minaret from being distracted, but the efforts were in vain. Interestingly, the restoration process is carried out by a committee which doesn't include any members of expertise in the field of archaeology and cultural preservation. No specific scientific techniques and procedures are used in doing the restoration. So This is a very recent case of cultural heritage destruction in Iraqi Kurdistan. Yeah, so Iraq's young heritage to heritage preservations, such as limited educational opportunities. These are the challenges that we are currently facing in Iraq. So many aspiring heritage professionals lack access to quality education programs in heritage management, archaeology, and conservation. Insufficient training is the second point. The absence of comprehensive training program and practical experience hampers the development of necessary skills among young professionals. Technological gaps also another, and access to modern tools. The fourth point is resource constraints. Limited funding and resources hinder the implementation of conservation projects and inhibit the potential impact of young heritage professionals. As you can see on the screen, there are some ways to strengthen and support Iraq's young heritage professionals. First, we can start with investing in education, establish and enhance formal education programs in heritage-related fields at universities and special aids to related disciplines. The second one is capacity building. So organize workshops, seminars, and training sessions conducted by experts to enhance the practical skill of young professionals. Technology integration is also another way to help Iraqi professionals like allocate resources for the adoption of modern technologies such as 3D scanning, virtual reality, and digital documentation in heritage conservation efforts. International collaboration is also another important point. Establish partnership with international initiatives. Community engagement is really powerful in this case. So allocate resources for public awareness campaigns to emphasize the importance of cultural heritage, involve local communities in heritage preservation project, fostering a sense of ownership and collaboration. Policy advocacy is also another important point in this manner. Advocate for policies that prioritize the protection and preservation of cultural heritage. Resource support collaborative projects that involve multiple stakeholders, including heritage professionals, institutions, and communities. Drones can be used also as a low-cost source for information, and up-to-date data can be obtained through it. Moreover, photographs taken by drones can be used to create DTMs, I mean digital training models, of archaeological site. There are also some innovatives, I mean, in empowering Iraqi culture heritage skills and to do great work to prevent cultural heritage and archaeological sites from being distracted. First of all, I came out with digital mentorship platforms. One innovative way to support cultural heritage professionals is through the establishment of digital mentorship platforms. In a word, connected by technology, experienced professionals can mentor young counterparts through virtual channels. This not only facilitates knowledge transfer, but also creates a global network where Iraqi professionals can seek advice and collaborate with experts from are important in the case of cultural heritage preservation. VR technology offers a revolutionary approach to training cultural heritage professionals. Virtual reality training programs can immerse individuals in simulated archaeological sites, enabling them to practice conservation techniques and engage in lifelike scenarios. This hands-on interactive training supplement traditional models, methods, and ensure that professionals are well prepared for the challenge they may encounter in the field. Is also important. So
Mabas, could you repeat the last, because the connection isn't very good. Could you repeat the last sentence? We didn't hear it.
The third point is source heritage conservation project that I'm going to talk about it, how it can help heritage professionals to mitigate the destructive factors to the archaeological and cultural heritage in Iraq. So blockchain for artifact tracking implementation of cultural artifacts by creating a secure and transparent system for recording the provenance of artifacts. Professionals can combat illicit trafficking and ensure the integrity of historical collections. This technology provides a robust and decentralized record that enhance the accountability of entire heritage preservation process. Artificial intelligence for data analysis is also another powerful tool in the case of heritage, enhanced data analysis capability. Artificial intelligence, like algorithms, can process vast data sets, identify patterns, and predict potential risk to cultural heritage sites. This data-driven approach enables professionals to prioritize conservation efforts effectively and make informed decisions based on the analysis of conflict information. So these are some important application and tools that we can use in the case of cultural heritage preservation. And I hope to the professionals to do great works in the case of cultural heritage preservation. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my seminar I presented for today. I hope it was helpful, and
Very helpful.
thanks
Thank you,
again.
Mabast. We can take questions and answers after all the our colleagues have presented. Next up is Dr. Shireen Yunus Ismail from the University of Dahok, a lecturer at the Faculty of Engineering, has a PhD from Dortmund in Germany, TU Dortmund University, and is a member of the Dahok Governorate Planning Committee from 2020 to the present, and is also a member of the management committee of the Nahrain Network. Would you like to share your screen, Dr. Shireen? So Mabast, if you can unshare your screen.
I answered already.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mahyar, for introducing me. I'm doing my best to share my screen, but it's not working. I think, Mabast, you have to remove your file.
Yeah, we can still see your Mabast.
Yes,
we can
because
still
we are still see
your screen.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now you can share your screen, Dr. Shireen.
Yeah. Yes, thank you again. Thank you so much, Kak Mahyar, for introducing me. I'm glad to be with you all to discuss one of the main topic for a needed topic for our context. Thank you to Nahrain Network for this initiative. Yeah, my presentation consists of 3 parts. The first part, I will introduce or discuss very basically what is conservation of cultural heritage. And then based on that, I will discuss some of the challenges that most professionals facing in our country. And then proposing some strategies to strengthen the Iraqis' next generation of cultural heritage professionals. So among many types of heritage, all my comments will be focused about cultural heritage, and more specifically, the tangible and immovable cultural heritage that mostly include buildings, monuments, structures, landscape, and archaeological remains. So those are some examples representing cultural heritage in Kurdistan region. They are all important and with significant value and registered in the national list of Iraq. So all my comments again will be based on my observation through attending many meetings, stakeholders meetings, workshops, visiting projects, conservation projects, either implemented by a local professional or international professionals, and also acting as a local expert coordinator in many international programs training programs, and also my intervention and my personal involvement in some of these projects. So here are some examples of attending meetings, workshops, normal discussion with national and international professionals in conservation, and also one of the projects, training projects about value assessment of the site, of the cultural sites, which is funded by British Council in 2019. And the target group for training were new graduate students, new academic staff with the local professional of cultural heritage. So the other example that I want to mention is also the training course, which is funded by EU. It was mainly focused on the traditional construction technique and the material, traditional materials. So the main example that we have taken in the discussion, it was the shrine of Prophet Nahum and some traditional houses in Accra. So the last example I could give, which is about the project, documentation project, which is also funded by German cooperation through GIZ organization. So the participants were mostly new graduate students from different disciplines. So basically, conservation, it's any action to protect the sites, and it has its own vision, which is delaying the natural laws of deterioration. So for that vision, you do need to have your own plan, which is called conservation plan. Just normally consists of many steps that you have to follow to develop this conservation plan. So the first one basically is to collect data. These data might be measurable and non-measurable regarding the history of the site, the problems in the site, the causes of these problems, the dimensions, the architecture styles, the material use, construction methods used. All of these has to be collected and documented. Then you do need to analyze and discuss these data and information to understand well the site and the value of the sites. And based on that, you can drive your intervention strategy, either it's consolidation or preservation or restoration or reconstruction. Then the final step is to implement your project. So all of these steps require the involvement of different disciplines, involvement of professionals of different disciplines, such as historians, conservators, architects, archaeologists, structural engineers, and etc. Each of the sites has its own conservation plan. You cannot copy conservation plan for one site to another, because each one has its own characteristic and value and the context. So regarding the challenges, based on this discussion, I can differentiate between the projects that implemented or run by local professionals and those implemented by international professionals. So for those projects implemented by local professionals, mostly they target the sites with value or high value or sometimes significant value for the site. Current practice in our context shows that these professionals in our context do not properly adhere to these steps of conservation. Still, they let the final decision to the final moment, and they directly go to the site and start their intervention without well understanding the site. So for the first step, for example, for data collection, still they are using the very traditional technique and devices. For those are mostly time-consuming and less accurate methods for data collection. And for the new techniques are rarely used by local professionals in their projects for data collection and analysis. So the other challenges is for analysis steps. This is the most important step. For analysis steps, you do need to understand the value of the site. So you do need to involve different disciplines in this discussion. So most of the time that you cannot find such disciplines, for example, conservators or structural engineers who are specialists in historical structures, or for example, traditional materials. So this normally lead to have a lower understanding to the value of the site, and then causing conservation strategy to be improper with the value of the sites. The professionals involved in the discussion and implementation of most of the projects, they have conflicts in their vision, and each one is trying to pursue their own professional goals. This is normal if you have a reference, or what we call in engineering benchmark. But mostly archaeologists are interested, for example, in restoration to back the site as it was originally. And architects are mostly interested or prioritize aesthetic value of the site. As I said, they do need a benchmark to, or reference to compare their decision with these the reference. So the most important reference is the international principles of conservation, which is emphasized in many international charters and conventions and adopted by our country. But in my opinion, there is less understanding to these principles, and they have not applied well in the decision. And based on my contact with many of the professionals in my context, they do think that these standards or these principles have to apply to the World Heritage sites, not of the cultural sites, which is wrong. And also a conservation. That's why conservation plan for most of the sites is negatively affecting the value of the sites. For example, I can give example about this problem. For example, we have in Zaho Bridge, all bazaar in Zaho, all buildings in Accra, the improper decision has been done for their conservation. So according to the law, Iraqi law number 55 in 2002 of Antiquities and Heritage, archaeologists are the most responsible discipline for conservation, but they have to work in a team. But sometimes this is problematic based on my observation, because not all of the sites have their archaeological value is the most valuable value in the site, because the site might have multiple values. And as I said, archaeologists are mostly prefer restoration. This is also causing, this perspective is also supported by law. If you look to the law, they are more emphasizing on restoration of the sites. So in my opinion, this is one of the main problems that causing the deterioration of most of our buildings, because they are always in their mind, they are always, and also in their plan, they are always planning to have a fund for restoration, which is expensive process. And these buildings might need little intervention, not restoration, maybe preservation or simple consolidation. So when they leave these buildings for fund for many years, they cause, this is causing more deterioration of the buildings. So the example I mentioned, old bazaar in Zaho, it was well known of it is khans, big khans. Those are some photos of these big khans. This is the old bazaar in the small island historical city of Zaho. And these are some examples of the buildings within the old bazaar. And in this site, you can see how it has been totally changed without respect to any of the traditional elements, architecture elements that we have in these traditional buildings, and the history of the area, the land use in the area. They never respect this. Totally has been changed. Based on my information, this plan has been copied from one of the bazaar in Turkey, and they have copy-paste the same style to the old bazaar in Zaho. New construction methods, even new materials, new stone cladding. So everything has been changed. So the other example also I can mention is about old buildings in Accra. Based on the documentation, we have more than, for example, we have more than 17 style of windows there in Accra. But in the municipality, they have selected only 2, and they decided to apply for all of the buildings in their plan to be copy-paste. So the conservation, or what the plan that they have selected, which is called reconstruction, but actually it's not reconstruction, because it's not based on the documentation of these buildings, interior layout, exterior layout, the style, the materials, construction materials, all has not been considered in their plan. So Alhamdulillah, this project has been stopped. Only these standards have been applied to 28 of the houses there. So regarding the challenges that professionals face in the projects run by international cultural institutions, which is mostly targeting the significant sites, significant value, significant sites. That means have multiple values. Sorry. So they are using advanced techniques, and most of these techniques have been highlighted by my colleague Mabas for data collection and analysis. And based on my observation, there is a huge gap of knowledge. So it's true that within their contract they have to train the local professional, but in fact there is a huge gap of knowledge. So mostly these training are short and ineffective. And besides, there is a language barrier. The knowledge gap is particularly notable in the value assessment, and also in the traditional construction techniques and materials. This is mostly the knowledge gap that I have observed. So regarding the strategies to how to strengthen the Iraqis' next generation of cultural heritage professionals, in my opinion, there is a need to first we start with the current professionals who are currently working in the conservation projects. We have to have some strategies for them how to strengthen their skills, and for the next generation also we have to have some certain strategies. So for the current professionals who are working in the conservation plans, in my opinion, they do need an extensive training program that encompasses all the activities in conservation plan. Not only one step of conservation plan, as most of them training courses we do, because it's short, so we focus in one of the action. So it needs to have a whole baggage of conservation activities. This requires, for sure, a collaboration on different levels, ministries, higher education, for example, municipality, and also national and international universities. And also, those who are trained, those professionals who are trained, they have to be recognized and certified to be permitted to work in conservation projects. Not all the archaeologists have to work in the conservation projects, or not all architects have to be involved in conservation projects. So that's why this program for training, this could help those people to actively work in conservation projects. So the other strategy is, in my opinion, there is a need for having a platform for professionals for all across Iraq. So they can communicate, they can share their knowledge gains by practice, from practice, exchange their ideas or discuss their problems, sharing tutorial videos, for example, the traditional way for producing good line. This is one of the challenges that most of the archaeologists face. And also, in my opinion, supporting research on conservation, as they are very little in our context. Those professionals have gained their knowledge from the practice, but unfortunately, this knowledge has not been well discussed scientifically. So we have to have strategy to support the joint research between professionals and academics to exchange knowledge and continuous discuss the output of related research and to find solutions to the practice problems. So also for Ministry of Higher Education, they have to support conservation in their study program, updating the curriculum in some of the related departments, for example, archaeology, civil engineering, architecture, to more emphasis on conservation. So in the future, you will have good teamwork so they can understand each other. Not like now, there is huge knowledge gap and less understanding of the opinion of each other, of the focus of each other. This also could be effectively done through collaboration with international universities, in my opinion. Also support postgraduate studies on conservation by having special study program on conservation. And those graduated from these programs, they have to be nationally recognized as being permitted also, as we did propose for the current professionals, also proposed for the next academic staff. So also they can be recognized nationally and permitted to work in conservation projects, and mainly in engineering, faculty, and archaeology. These are my strategies to strengthen the future professional in conservation. And I'm ready to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shireen. That was a fascinating presentation. We'll take questions and answers at the end. Next up is Ali Banyan from the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage. He currently works at the Shilan Museum in Najaf as part of the Directorate of Museums in the country. He has worked at the Iraqi National Museum in Baghdad for 2 years. If you'd like to share your screen, Ali, if you're there. He's just disappeared. Okay, he's back. Ali will be speaking in Arabic, and I'll take chunks from his discussion to manage the translation. Ali, would you like to share your screen and we can start with your presentation? Hello, Ali, are you there? Karar, are you there?
Yes.
Would you like to go ahead? Would you like to go first before Ali? I don't. Maybe there's an internet issue. Would you like to start, Karar? I can introduce you, and we can go back to Ali to save time.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
اوكي I'm
علي
listening.
تقدر تبلش شير
Yes. نعم
اوكي
شيرت
it's good
هسه.
علي he's there now go ahead you can
هسه
share your
نعم
screen
تمام. مساء الخير. بالبداية طبعا شكرا جزيلا إلى شبكة النهرين يعني الاستضافة، وشكرا إلى بروفيسور إلينور روبسون ودكتور مهيار. طبعا بالبداية الموضوع هو فكرة حول خلق شراكة أو خلق مؤسسة تعنى بالآثار وبتخليق أو يعني إيجاد جيل من الآثاريين المحترفين على مستوى عالمي، يعني يكون بالمستوى اللي يليق بالآثار العراقية والإرث الحضاري العراقي. فهنا كانت العنوان اللي هو رؤية مستقبلية لصناعة جيل آثاري محترف. بالبداية لازم انه احنا حتى نخلق هذا الجيل اللي يكون محترف ويكون ذي اهميه عاليه في علم الاثار، لابد انه نرجع الى خلق هويه ثقافيه تاريخيه خاصه بهذا البلد. واللي احنا هسه هذا العينه اللي عندنا انه احنا بدنا نتحدث عن العراق. العراق بكل إرثه الحضاري نجد كثير من الناس في العراق ما يعرفون حضارتهم أو ما عندهم الخلفية الكافية حول الآثار العراقية. حتى احنا نقدر نوصل إلى هذا المستوى من خلق هذه الهوية، هذا الانتماء، هذا الارتباط ما بين ساكني هذه الأرض والحضارة التي عاشت في الأزمان القديمة على هذه الأرض. لابد من تقديم مناهج دراسية. هذا المنهج الدراسي يبدأ يعني قد يكون من الابتدائية أو من المتوسطة أو الإعدادية وحتى الجامعات. منهج يعلم ويثقف ويدعو إلى الذهاب إلى يعني التبحر في حضارة هذا البلد. هذا الموضوع طبعا أنا من خلال يعني مشاهدتي ومن خلال اقترابي كثير من الطلاب وغير هذا من التفاصيل، لقيت يعني نقص كبير في المعلومات، المواد، حتى المواد التاريخية، حتى مادة التاريخ في المدارس يعني لا تسد هذه الفجوة، لا تخلق من الطلاب يعني لا تخلق ثقافة آثارية وانتماء لهذه الحضارة. أيضا الجانب المهم جدا واللي عملت عليه كثير أنا وزملائي كثير من الآثاريين هو الجانب الإعلامي. الجانب الإعلامي إلى الدور الكبير اليوم. لابد من أن يكون قنوات تلفزيونية تسلط الضوء بشكل كافي، برامج وثائقية وتاريخية، أيضا مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي، السوشيال ميديا، فسح المجال أمام الإعلام للعمل في المناطق الأثرية والمدن الأثرية. أيضا إشراك أو اقتباس أفكار لمسلسلات وأفلام من الحضارات القديمة أو تجسيد لشخصيات معروفة قديمة. كل هذا راح يعطينا ثقافة عالية للفرد العراقي. هذه الثقافة اللي راح ينشأ عليها الفرد، راح ينشأ عليها الطفل في بداية حياته، وطالب المدرسة راح يوصل إلى مرحلة يكون عنده فكرة كافية قبل لا يدخل في اختصاص علم الآثار. هنا هذا راح يسمح له أن يكون بخلفية كبيرة، يعني تسمح له يدخل كلية الآثار أو أقسام الآثار عن حب وعن هواية. هنا لازم إنه إحنا اللي هو
تقدر
موضوع
تترجم بس علي أقدر أترجم هاي
تمام.
الفقرات حتى ما
نعم
أضيع
تمام.
ملاحظاتك. شكرا. I'll translate what's been said, at least in bullet point form. Ali would like to thank the Nahrain Network and Professor Eleanor for its work. Ali is focusing on the institutional development of the sector with a view to strengthening a new generation of archaeologists and heritage practitioners. He's focused on the need for a vision for Iraq and for the sector. Without a vision, it would be very difficult to actually strengthen Iraq's new generation of heritage practitioners. He also focused on the need to raise awareness in society regarding Iraq's cultural histories and past to create a greater knowledge and awareness. And also a focus is required to strengthen curricula, including at a sort of basic level, education, school level, all the way up to higher education. And he said that all institutions are responsible for that. Also, he's mentioned that the need to, regarding curricula, it's generally weak, but also there are sections that are missing regarding Iraq's past. So not only is it weak in general, so in here he's referring to both primary school and also up to higher education, the need for reform of Iraq's cultural heritage curricula. Also the need for media, both TV, documentaries, social media, to raise awareness about Iraq's past. And this will create greater awareness in society to facilitate or invite or attract new interest from society to participate in the field of cultural heritage. And he's referring here specifically to young members of society. اتفضل علي.
نعم. هنا فكرة المحاضرة حتى احنا نخلق هذا الجيل بعد ما أعددنا أو ما أعدينا الهوية الثقافية التاريخية لهذا البلد وهذه المنطقة، لازم إنه احنا نبدي نأسس لمدرسة آثارية. من واقعنا العراقي إنه احنا عندنا المؤسسة التعليمية المختصة في الآثار في وزارة، والمؤسسة الآثارية في وزارة. تشوف إن اليوم احنا يعني من الضروري يوم نجي إلى أن نخلق صرح ثقافي وعلمي يهتم بتدريس علم الآثار، يقدم دراسة تجمع ما بين الخبرة العملية والخبرة البحثية. شلون نوصل لهاي الدراسة؟ أنا من وجهة نظري يعني أنا أشوف هذا الموضوع من خلال عملي، من خلال أول مرة كنت كطالب في كلية الآثار، وأيضا من خلال عملي في المؤسسة الآثارية. اليوم إحنا جاي نشوف المؤسسة الآثارية يعني من المتخصصين في علم الآثار لديهم الخبرة العملية بالإضافة إلى الخبرة يعني البحثية أو النظرية. يعني تشوف أنه هؤلاء المتخصصين في التنقيبات الأثرية وفي الصيانة وفي تفاصيل أو كل مفردات علم الآثار ما تدخل في علم الآثار، لابد أن يكون هنالك مكان معين تسمى أو يطلق عليه أو تدعى المؤسسة الآثارية أو المدرسة الآثارية العراقية. وطبعا هذا موضوع إيجاد المؤسسة أو المدرسة الآثارية العراقية حدث به الكثير من علماء الآثار في السابق ونادى لتأسيسها. وإحنا اليوم أيضا نطرح هاي الفكرة برؤية تدمج ما بين المتخصصين في المؤسسة التعليمية والمتخصصين في علم الآثار في المؤسسة الآثار يجتمعون في مؤسسة عليا، في مدرسة عليا تدرس البكالوريوس وتدرس الماجستير تدرس الدكتوراه، وعلى مستوى مناهج عالية تعتمد نظام يعني المناهج الحديثة، المناهج المعتمدة أو المحاضرات المعتمدة على آخر التنقيبات، آخر الأعمال، آخر يعني ما يتعلق بالصيانة وغيرها. نعم دكتور مهيار.
Ali said that there is a need to establish an Iraqi school of archaeology, which will champion the merging of research and practice as an essential component of building this vision for Iraq in relation to its archaeological but also cultural history, and that there needs to be a communication and integration between higher education, which also includes undergraduate, graduate, and PhD level education, alongside with the need for a practice-oriented domain as part of this school of archaeology, and this needs to be integrated or it needs to address comprehensively the needs of Iraq's sector. I think that's it. تفضل علي.
تمام. طبعا هاي اللي يعني اللي المدرسة اللي احنا بيها. فطبعا تحدثت انه خلق الشراكة ما بين المؤسسة الآثارية والتعليم، تحدثنا حول هذا الموضوع. وطبعا من الأمور المهمة اللي احنا لابد ايضا تكون عندنا موجودة وناخذها بنظر الاعتبار، وتكون بالمستوى المطلوب، يعني اللي هو الانفتاح الثقافي على الثقافة الآثارية العالمية. يعني احنا لابد انه تكون عندنا استحداث الدراسات الحديثة او احضار الدراسات الحديثة وتقديمها لمواكبة ما وصل اليه العالم، خاصة في دراسة آثار العراق وحضارات العراق وعلى جميع مستوياتها، وما وصل اليه الوضع العلمي الخاص بالآثار على مستوى الجامعات العراقية. فإذا خلقنا هذه المؤسسة اللي هي مؤسسة آثارية تكون مركزية لتدريس الآثار، فهنا راح نتمكن من تخليق هذا الجيل الآثاري بمستوى عالمي عالي. هذا الانفتاح الثقافي راح يضمن لنا تبادل المعلوماتي وتبادل الخبرات ما بين الجامعات العالمية وهذا المركز الثقافي. نعم دكتور مهيار.
And that this proposed School of Archaeology will raise the profile of Iraq's archaeologists, and also there is, as part of that, there is a need for international global engagement in archaeology with the latest forms of knowledge outside the country, so globally. And that this school of archaeology, or this process of learning about archaeology for the purposes of strengthening Iraq's archaeologists, is one that will be should be tied to this kind of knowledge exchange and cultural exchange as a way to strengthen the sector itself. Yeah.
العمل الميداني طبعا هذا من أهم المواضيع اللي احنا قد يكون نفتقر لها، أو قد تكون ما بين سطر وسطر، يعني ما بين مرة تكون أكو عمل ميداني ومرة يكون لا، ومرة أكو عمل ميداني في حقل، يعني في حقل الآثار الحقيقي، أو قد يكون في حقل افتراضي. طبعا كخريجين لكليات الآثار أو أقسام الآثار بالدرجة الأساس ولقبه منقب آثار. فكيف يخرج منقب آثار إذا ماكو عمل حقلي؟ أنا طبعا من خلال تجربتي في دراسة علم الآثار وعملي حتى في موقع ميداني أثناء الكلية في المرحلة الرابعة، يعني أنا بالبداية شفته كلش قليل، بالإضافة لأنه هو عمل في موقع افتراضي، يعني مو موقع حقيقي. ومن خلال تجربتي بالعمل في موقع حقيقي كان شيء أشبه ما يكون بالجديد، شيء كأنك يعني تجهل الكثير من معلوماته وأفكاره. فبدأت للوهلة الأولى العمل الميداني كأنك بدأت من الصفر، كأنك بدأت من الصفر في هذا العمل. فهنا الجانب العمل الميداني مثل ما نتطرق إلى عفوا الدراسة النظرية، لازم تتواكب معها الأعمال الميدانية. كل ما يتعلق بالعمل الميداني لابد من وجوده، وهذا الجانب راح يكسب لنا أو راح يخرج لنا آثاري متمكن على المستويين العلمي والبحثي، وعلى المستوى العمل العلمي الآثاري التنقيبي. نعم دكتور.
Thank you. So Ali is underlining the need for field work or on-site work on archaeological sites as part of the process of learning and building up the capacity of Iraqi archaeologists. And that based on his own experience, he said that once he actually started field research, field work on an archaeological site, he realized the new learning that he had obtained as if he started from scratch, as if it was a completely new experience for him. And therefore, there is a need for integrating this field work as part of this overall vision that he is proposing, and the idea of an Iraqi School of Archaeology. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. الابتعاث خارج البلد طبعا هذا من المواضيع المهمة، وأيضا لابد من أنه مواكبة الطلاب العراقيين أو المحليين مع الطلاب العالميين. هنا خلق صداقات، خلق هذه المعارف ما بين الطلاب، خلق أو زيارة الجامعات، زيارة هذا يعطينا كم من المعلومات، تبادل الخبرات، وخلق هذا التواصل ما بين الداخل والخارج. راح يوفر كثير من المعلومات، كثير من متابعة آخر يعني ما يتعلق بالبحث العلمي والمؤتمرات وغيرها. الشراكات العلمية ما بين الداخل والخارج راح يعزز لنا أيضا وجود جيل آثاري منفتح على العالم الخارجي وكل ما يحيط في علم الآثار.
And the need for this for scholarships outside the country as part of this process of learning, which will invite improved knowledge exchange, understanding the sort of new research in the field, and also possibly contributing towards new collaborations between Iraq and the world outside Iraq. Go ahead.
Yes. طبعا أخيرا دعم المهارات الفردية للآثاريين. اليوم عندنا كثير من الآثاريين اللي يمتلكون مهارات جدا عالية، وخاصة في مجالات يعني مختلفة قد تكون مساندة لتخصصهم الرئيسي اللي هو تخصص علم الآثار. قد يكون المهارة الحرفية اليدوية في الصناعات أو ما شابه ذلك، المهارات في التقديم الإذاعي والإعلامي، كل هذا وغيرها طبعا من ما يتعلق بالمهارات الأخرى. هذا لابد أن وجود دعم لهذه المهارات حتى نوظفها في حقل الآثار، نفسح المجال بشكل كبير حتى يأخذ دوره. وخاصة أنا أركز دائما على الدور الإعلامي، الدور الإعلامي، الدور الحرفي لخلق يعني لصناعة مثل التذكاريات وغيرها. هذا من جانب شيء يتعلق بالسياحة وغيرها. أيضا كثير من الآثاريين عندهم إمكانية بالتحدث ويكونون أدلاء سياحيين، تور جايد، ممكن أن يصطحبون الزوار، وإمكانية في تقديم الشروحات وخوض جو من المغامرة وتقديم هذه المعلومات. طبعا لهذا يدعم كونه بالبداية أنه مختص كأثاري، وأيضا أخذ جانب آخر اعتمادا على مهارته الفردية. هذا الأشخاص وإن كان عددهم قليلة لابد من وجود دعم لهم حتى يواصلون مسيرتهم في تخصص الآثار الرئيسي وفي مهاراتهم الفردية، خلينا نقول المساندة لعلم الآثار. طبعا لهنا أنا أقدم شكري وشكرا لإصغائكم، وشكرا دكتور مهيار.
شكرا أستاذ علي. بس هاي نقاط راح أترجمها. Ali, in his last points, mentioned the need for raising and strengthening the skill set among Iraqi archaeologists, including those that are specific or individual to particular, that are the diverse set of skills among Iraqi archaeologists that could have support or contribute to multiple related fields, such as tourism and tour guides, So not only strengthening the sector, but also supporting at an individual level, sort of offering tailored support to Iraqi archaeologists, and those who should be encouraged also as part of that process to specialize in the related fields associated with, and the diverse and related fields associated with archaeology. Thank you. And of course, he mentioned the need, reinforcing the need for media as part of that, which, like tourism, is also one of the fields related to supporting the field of archaeology and cultural heritage in wider society. So we move on now to Karar. Thank you, Ali, for that. We move now to Karar, who has a master's degree in ancient antiquities from the University of Mosul. We can see his age here also. And Karar has has been part of several seasons of excavations, including at the British Museum Gerso or Tello site in Nasiriyah, and several other sites. I will also do a similar structure with Karar, and then we'll take questions and answers afterwards. تفضل كرار.
السلام عليكم، شكرا جزيلا لشبكة النهرين وأيضا للحضور. أيضا أشكر يعني ثقتكم اعتبار نموذج من شباب الآثاريين. نقدر نحن نعزز من قدرات الشباب الآثار العراقي. طبعا أنا أتكلم على مواضيع هي نوعا ما راح تكون عن تجربة شخصية، وهي ما عززت بي القدرة الآثارية، وأيضا هي تعتبر نموذج لجميع الآثاريين والتحديات التي تصيب يعني، وأيضا أشوفها يعني جدا مهمة أن يتعلمها الشاب الآثاري في بداية العمل، وأيضا التعلم من عندها. طبعا الأشياء المهمة التي تعزز من قدرات الآثاري، خاصة في حقل الآثاري، هي أشوفها يعني من النقاط المهمة من حيث تعزز الشاب العراقي من خلال الآثار، وهي المشاركة من الأعمال التطوعية من خلال البعثات وأيضا المنظمات، مع تعزز من حبه للآثار، وأيضا رغبته في تنشيط قدراته، وأيضا التواصل مع المجتمع المحلي، وأيضا حبه للعمل التطوعي، ما يشجع كثير من العوامل، منها التراث والحماية، وأيضا الترويج السياحي لهذه الأماكن المهمة، خاصة بالعراق هو خزين مهم من الآثار والمواقع المهمة. نعم.
يعني
أوكي. النقاط المهمة أنا أشوفها دائما يجب على الآثار أن دائما أن يكون دائما تواصل مع الفرق التنقيبية من خلال تطوير القدرات التقنية، وأيضا تطور ما موجود في مجال الآثار. نعرف احنا كثير من البعثات التنقيبية حاليا في العراق، مختلف المدارس، كل بعثة تنقيبية لها مدرسة خاصة فيها وطريقتها، وأيضا مواكبة عمليات التطور الموجود التقني من خلال التواصل الآثاري الشاب، ولو كان في مرحلة البكالوريوس، يكون دائما على تواصل مع البعثات، ولو متدرب أو زائر يزور المواقع الأثرية لاكتشاف ما موجود من تقنيات، وأيضا الطريقة اللي يعتمد فيها في عملية التنقيب. أشوفها جدا مهمة، هاي من النقاط المهمة اللي يعتمدها في حياة الآثار الشاب، أن يفتح نقاط تواصل مع البعثات التنقيبية، ولو يعني أشياء بسيطة يقدر يتعلمها من خلال الزيارات المواقع الأثرية. طبعا النقطة الثالثة وهي المهمة، وهي المشاركة في البرامج والدورات في حول تطوير الأفكار الناشئة واستغلال ما موجود من آثار وتراث في العراق. يعني شوف كثير من الأفكار الموجودة في العراق يحتاج إليها تطوير من خلال التدريب، وأيضا المشاركة في البرامج لاستغلال ما موجود من التراث. يعني كثير احنا نشوف في البازارات، وأيضا استغلال المواقع التراثية في إنشاء المهرجانات، وأيضا المناسبات التاريخية، وأيضا الترويج السياحي حول هذه الأماكن. هذا ما يعزز الدور الآثاري، وأيضا زيادة فرص العمل الآثاري من خلال المواقع، وأيضا يتم تشجيع كثير من البعثات التنقيبية، وأيضا زيادة الشركات في العراق، زيادة السواح، وأيضا كثير من أمور. هاي أشوفها نقطة جدا مهمة، أن يكون الآثاري دائما على مواكب في عملية التدريب والبرامج في عملية تطوير القدرات، وأيضا معرفة التقنيات المهمة الموجودة. طبعا النقطة الرابعة، وهي أشوفها جدا مهمة للآثار في مقتبل العمر، هو العمل ولو شيء بسيط، أن يعمل يكون تور جايد بالتواصل مع التواصل مع السواح، وأيضا يعني تسهيل حركة السواح للدخول إلى المواقع بسبب علم كثير من المعلومات الآثارية، وأيضا زيادة المخزون المعلوماتي للآثاري، وأيضا تطوير قدراته في اللغة الإنجليزية. أشوف يعني
شكرا أستاذ كيار. إذا أراجع هاي النقاط، شكرا. He would like to start by thanking the Nahrain Network for this webinar, and he speaks from personal experience. He also works as as someone who is in the field of tourism, who is a tour guide, also working in the field of archaeology. He underlined the need for volunteering as part of the work of strengthening the sector. And as part of that, there is a continuous need to promote the cultural heritage in Iraq, and to benefit and optimize benefit from international excavation teams in the country. Each excavation team or country has its own approach, and we should also learn from those different approaches to excavations in the country. Also underline the significance of learning on as part of that interaction with foreign excavation teams on site in the country itself. And again, underline the need for continuous learning and support for archaeologists, and also the need to promote tourism and also access to archaeological sites for tourists. Yeah.
اوكي. النقطة السلايد الثاني هو أهم التحديات تواجه الآثاري من خلال العمل في العراق. كثير أكو تحديات تواجه الآثاري. نشوف يعني لازم يكون أكو فد يعني معالجات من قبل الجهات المعنية أو من قبل الآثار نفسه، وهي من النقاط المهمة، وهي اختلاف المدارس التنقيبية في العراق. يعني نشوف احنا كثير من البعثات التنقيبيه قاعد تزور هذه البعثات، هذه المواقع وكذلك التنقيب. كل دوله تختلف في مدرستها التنقيبيه، مثل البريطانيه والفرنسيه والالمانيه وكثير من الجامعات المهمه. كل جامعه لها طريقه الخاصه في عمليه التنقيب واسلوبها الخاص، وايضا التقني. شوف يعني لازم يعني أن يكون هناك مدرسة آثارية عراقية تكون يعني سيستم خاص لعملية التنقيب في العراق، وهاي جدا مهمة في عملية التنقيب. يعني نشوف التحديات إن خلال تجربتي الشخصية وخلال عملي كثير مع البعثات، كل مدرسة تختلف بطريقة الأسلوب والتعامل مع الموقع الأثري، وهذا ما واجهني كثير من التحديات، وأيضا التقني. كثير اكو جامعات تستعمل التقنيه القديمه وتقنيه جديده، فتكون اختلافات كثيره في عمل الحقلي، وهذا ما يكون لازم يكون مدرسه خاصه اثاريه تكون فيها يعني مدرسه مثل ما نقول عمليه التنقيب موحده في جميع المواقع التنقيب وايضا التقني. طبعا النقطه الثانيه وهي طبعا تطوير القدرات، تطوير القدرات من تطوير القدرات التكنولوجي من قبل الآثاري. يجب على الآثاري هو أن يتواصل مع كثير مع البعثات حتى يتم تطوير قدراته من خلال التقنيات الموجودة في الحقل الآثاري. وعلى سبيل المثال كثير من البعثات التنقيبية عندها تقنيات جدا مهمة، تقنيات جدا متطورة، وهذا ما يجهله كثير من الآثاريين العراقيين الموجودين في العراق. يجب إشراك كثير من الآثاريين مع البعثات التنقيبية والجامعات الأوروبية، وأيضا إشراك الآثاريين العراقيين في عمليات التنقيب حتى يتم الاستفادة من التقنيات الموجودة في العراق. النقطة الثالثة وهي الترويج الإعلامي للمواقع الأثرية وأيضا الاكتشافات. أشوف يعني كثير من التحديات الموجودة أن كثير أكو اكتشافات مهمة من قبل البعثات التنقيبية لا يتم إعلان عنها، أو يكون لها شو إعلامي ما يعزز القدرات السياحية للعراق، وأيضا يعني يعزز دور البعثات في الاكتشاف المزيد من الأشياء المهمة. احنا نشوف احنا على سبيل المثال مصر يعني الاكتشافات متتاليه وشو اعلامي جدا مهم يعزز دور السياحه فيها، واحنا نتمنى ان يكون هناك اكو شيء مشابه لما موجود في كثير من الدول، ان يكون هناك شو اعلامي خصوص الاكتشافات المهمه، وايضا الترويج السياحي للمواقع الاثريه وتهيئتها للزوار.
أنا إذا أترجم هاي النقاط كانت مهمة جدا. Um, there are various schools based from his own on-site experience working with different excavation teams in the country. There are different schools and different approaches associated with excavation, different set of practices and different sets of technology that are being used. And Iraq needs to determine its own school or approach to its own archaeology. And that this is a process of learning from all these other different schools. And this is important for safeguarding these sites. And also, he mentioned the need for this continuous technical development associated with the excavation teams. And then the third point is media promotion of new discoveries, as it's written here, but more specifically using media to raise awareness of the discoveries or knowledge obtained or extracted from the cultural sites, archaeological sites that have been excavated, and this will help with both the protection and media promotion. Media promotion will help with of these discoveries, and knowledge from these sites will help with the general raising awareness of cultural heritage in the country. Yeah.
اوكي. النقطة الرابعة أيضا مشاركة الآثاريين العراقيين الشباب مع البعثات التنقيبية. كثير من البعثات التنقيبية قاعد تعمل بالعراق مقارنة مع الشباب الآثاريين، ومشاركتهم مع البعثات التنقيبية تكون متفاوتة. كثير من البعثات احنا نشوفها يعني كانت أجنبية. على سبيل المثال هناك يعني بعثات أجنبية في العراق تعمل تقريبا 25 أجنبي، مقارنة مع العراق اللي يكون آثار يكون مشارك معهم، هي بعثات مشتركة يكون معهم 4 أو 5 أو 3، مقارنة مع الأشخاص الأجانب الموجودين، وهي بعثات مشتركة عراقية. بزيادة من خلال المشاركة ولو بأجور بسيطة، وهذا ما يعزز قدرات الشاب العراقي الآثاري في تعلم التقنيات الموجودة من خلال البعثات التنقيبية، من خلال العمل الحقلي وغيرها كثير من أمور راح يستفاد من عندها الآثار العراقي. وهذه من الأمور المهمة، يعني مشاركة عدد كبير من الآثاريين الشباب مع البعثات التنقيبية تستفاد ما موجود من خبرات. طبعا التحدي الآخر وهي الأجور المقدمة من قبل الآثاريين، من قبل الجهات الحكومية، من الجهات الرسمية، ومن جهات المنظمات وغيرها الكثير، هي أجور بسيطة بالمقارنة مع الوظائف الأخرى، علما أن الآثار هو معرض للخطر كثير من أمور، مثل هو يعمل في الصحاري، يعمل في مواقع خطرة، ايضا يعني تعزيزه من خلال اجور ولو اشياء بسيطه تقدم اليه مقارنه ما موجود في العالم. النقطه الثالثه وهي جدا مهمه هو صعوبه التواصل مع الجهات الامنيه. أنا دائما الآثاري الشاب هو دائما صعوبة التحرك في المواقع الأثرية، وأيضا بسبب التقييد الأمني وسبب الحماية وغيرها من الأمور. يجب يكون أكو تواصل سهل مع الجهات الحكومية الأمنية حتى يسهل عملية دخول المواقع الأثرية، وأيضا التنقيب، وأيضا التواصل معهم بكل سهولة بدون التعقيدات الموجودة من الجهات الرسمية. وكثير أمور يحتاج يمكن أيام أو أسابيع حتى يقدر يزور الموقع الأثري وغيرها، وهذا من التحديات المهمة تواجه الآثاري.
Yeah. So these last points, Karar mentioned that there's only a small number of Iraqi archaeologists vis-a-vis on some of these foreign-funded excavation teams. Sometimes excavation teams number 20, 25, and so on, but the Iraqi teams are 2 or 3, a small number as part of the foreign excavation teams, and this should be addressed with a view to strengthening and supporting Iraqi archaeologists in that learning process that he's underlined. He's also said that archaeologists they have weak salaries in the governmental system, even though they do face risks associated with their jobs, associated with their work to protect and safeguard cultural heritage, and this should be addressed at institutional state level. And this would provide them with the respective or the respect that they deserve. And he's also mentioned the need to coordinate, to improve and strengthen coordination with security associated with the protection of these sites. Sometimes to secure a permission to visit a site, even for an archaeologist, will take days or weeks. So there's something that needs to be streamlined and addressed. Yeah.
السلايد الآخر هو يعني هو نقاط مدعمة لما موجود من النقاط البداية، أنه هو كيف يتم تعزيز الآثاري وأيضا تعزيز قدراته من خلال تطبيق النقاط البداية، وهي التواصل مع البعثات، وأيضا المشاركة في التدريبات، وأيضا العمل التطوعي. كانت يعني بدايتها في عمل تدريبي مع المتحف البريطاني، وهذا ما عزز بقدراتي الشخصية وأيضا المعلوماتية والتكنولوجية. وأيضا كتابتي حول البحث العلمي وهي جدا مهمة، أن يكون الإنشاب الآثاري يكون مواكب لعمليات التطور الموجودة، أيضا الاكتشافات المهمة. من خلال عملي مع البعثة التنقيبية تمت دراسة بعض النماذج الموجودة المكتشفة في قرسو من قبل المتحف البريطاني، وهذا ما يعزز المعلوماتية، يعزز البحث العلمي ما موجود في العراق والعالم. وتطبيق النقاط في البداية وهي التواصل مع البعثات وأيضا التدريب معهم. في مرحلة الستات الآخر هو خلال عملي مع البحث الأمريكية، وأيضا الستات الآخر من خلال أنا كنت طالب في مرحلة البكالوريوس، كنت دائما على تواصل مع البعثات التنقيبية حتى أقدر أستفاد من عندهم ولو أشياء بسيطة، حتى أواكب التطور وأواكب عملية التقنية في التنقيبات الأثرية. كانت في بدايتها في أور من قبل البعثة الأمريكية، وأيضا في تل أبيض من قبل بعثة جامعة روما، وهذا ما عزز دور القدرات في عملية التنقيب، وأيضا تعزيز الثقة من قبل البعثات الموجودة في العراق حتى يتم التعاون مع الآثاريين العراقيين الشباب. الستات الآخر من خلال عملي مع البعثة جامعة هندلبرغ الألمانية في تل نبي يونس، من خلال التواصل معهم أيضا والعمل معهم، واستفادت من كثير من عملية التقنيات الموجودة منهم، من عندها يعني منها الجيوفيزيك، وأيضا التقنيات المهمة في عملية التنقيبية، وخاصة أن مدينة الموصل كانت تعرضت لكثير من الأعمال الإرهابية، وعادت البعثات التنقيبية بقوة لعملية التنقيب، واستفاد منهم حتى وكان في عمل تطوعي، الاستفادة من العمليات التنقيبية وأيضا التقنية. السلايد الآخر ايضا كان مواكبه البعثات الدوليه والتقنيه الموجوده من خلال البعثات. كانت البعثه الايطاليه في موصل من قبل جامعه بولونيا الايطاليه، هو استخدام تقنيه الجيوفيزيك، وهي تقنيات من التقنيات المهمه والحديثه في العراق. اشوفها يعني ضروري ان يتعلمها الشاب العراقي الاثاري حتى يتم الاستفاده من عندها من خلال هذه التقنيات. ايضا اني نموذج السلايدات هي تعزيز ما قلته في البدايه، والتواصل مع البعثات والعمل التطوعي والمواكبه التطور الموجود في التقني الموجود، وايضا التعلم من عمليه التنقيب واختلاف المدارس وغيرها. ايضا هاي من التقنيات المهمه اللي استفادت من عندها من قبل فريق فريق مارك الطويل من قبل جامعه لندن، وهي استخدام تقنيه الدي ان اي وتحليل الهياكل العظميه. كانت تجربه جدا عظيمه من خلال هذه التقنيه، وايضا استفاد من عندها. السلايد الاخر وهي عمليه الصيانه والتنقيبات من قبل البعثه الفرنسيه في اعاده تاهيل وترميم ما موجود بمدينه موصل القديمه، وايضا استفاده من عندهم من خلال التقنيات، وايضا التصميم العمراني وغيره. ايضا المشاركه في الدورات التدريبيه وتطوير افكار الناشئه كانت لي مشاركه جدا مهمه في جامعه كوتش التركيه، مع عزز دور القدرات، وايضا معالجه التحديات حول تطوير افكار الناشئه واستغلال ما موجود من التراث وسياحه في العراق. ايضا هاي احد الدورات التدريبيه شاركتها مع البعثه الفرنسيه خلال استعمال التقنيه ال 3 دي في توثيق المواقع الاثريه في العراق. طبعا هاي ايضا مشاركتي كثير مع المنظمات الدوليه في التثقيف حول الحضاره العراقيه، وايضا الحمايه وايضا الترويج الثقافي حول الاثار والسياحه. قبل الاخير يعني كان عملي مع جمعيه اورنينا في المانيا، وهي كيف حمايه المواقع الاثريه، وكان دوري يعني نقل الاشياء الحديثه، وايضا التحديات تواجه الاثار العراقيه وايضا التراث. وشكرا لكم.
شكرا أستاذ كرار. I'll just translate that quickly, but I guess we got the gist of some of the last points. So Karar has mentioned his previous experience on some of these excavation teams, and also documentation and also conservation work in the country. And he's benefited also from learning on site with a view to completing his master's at the University of Mosul, which was on Girsu Otello in Nasiriyah. And so he's mentioned the different institutions that he's worked with and been part of, and those are associated. Well, actually, it seems as if it's the entirety of the country, or Nabi Yunus, or obviously in Deqar, Nabi Yunus in Mosul. He also mentioned some conservation work that he's conducted with foreign teams in the old city of Mosul, and also documentation in places like Babylon and Ur. And he's also worked with Mark Tawil on DNA analysis. So the full range of archaeological experiences, and this has helped him strengthen his own set of skills, including in geophysical surveys, which seemingly is a skill that needs to be strengthened in the country. And so this is a case study, if you like, of learning that other young heritage professionals could benefit from being part of the foreign teams in the country. Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers. We'll take some questions and hopefully, yes, go ahead, Eleanor.
Before we open up to the floor, I personally want to thank all our speakers very much for this very important contribution you've made. Thank you all for being so honest and open and frank about the challenges that you personally have faced, and that the system as a whole is suffering. I was noticed how similar some of the things you said were: the importance of public education right from school age through adulthood, so that Iraq as a whole understands the importance of heritage and values it, and particularly political leaders and people who hold the money and make the strategic decisions understand what you're doing. But then I loved the fact that you each brought your own expertise and your own approach to the question. Mabast, you focused, I think you laid out the question of the structural problems, the structural barriers for us very clearly, and focus too on the human and the technological aspects, collaboration on one hand, but new technologies on the other. Shireen, you had some really great detailed examples of how different professions within our field as a whole have to work together, and that, you know, heritage professionals isn't just one thing, that we all come to it with our own different approaches. And then Ali, your vision of a national school, a national institute for archaeology, was really inspiring. A big challenge, but I think it's an aspiration we should all hold for and aim at. And then Kara, thank you for bringing your own personal experience and showing, actually, even within the problems of the system at the moment, there are ways in which individual people with your kind of energy and intellectual ambition can find opportunities to learn and grow and work with people and look across the field, from public engagement with as a tourist guide to intellectual academic work with your master's degree and field work. So I found that all really inspiring, and that there was hope amongst the honesty about the real difficulties that the discipline is facing at the moment in Iraq. So, you know, thank you so much. I hope that everybody here will have learned something, and will also, I hope everyone who's listening will go away and say, okay, here is something I will try to change. Those particularly the international participants in the webinar, if you're listening and you run a project or you have any influence at all in how your part of the discipline operates, please listen and think about what you've heard today, and think about how you can make at least one small change in your practice. So thank you all. And I'm sure there are lots of other questions, but I do personally just want to say thank you before we open up.
Thank you, Elena. We have a question from Ahmed, if you'd like to ask it. Yeah.
مساء الخير جميعا. مساء الخير دكتور مكار، مساء الخير بروفيسور إلينورا، مساء الخير للجميع. صوتي واضح؟
نعم، تفضل.
حقيقة يعني أود أن أشكر الجميع، وبداية أعرف نفسي. أنا أحمد شبر، موظف في وزارة الثقافة العراقية، الهيئة العامة للآثار والتراث، آثاري منقب آثار. عملت في الكثير من البعثات التنقيبية بين عضو ورئيس فريق. كذلك عملت في كثير من أعمال المسح الأثري، وحاليا أعمل رئيس فريق المسح الأثري لمشروع طريق الحج البري القديم در الزبيدة بين الكوفة ومكة فيما يخص الجانب العراقي، كمشروع تراث ثقافي عالمي عابر للحدود بين المملكة العربية السعودية والعراق. طبعا شيء جميل أن أرى الآثاريين النشيطين بصراحة، علي بنيان وأستاذ كرار، اللي هم أصدقائي المميزين فعلا. يعني الجانب التوعوي فعلا جانب مهم جدا، لكن أحب أضيف نقطة مهمة أستاذ علي. يعني الجانب التوعوي لا يختلف عليه اثنان أنه مهم جدا، لكن أن ننشئ جيل دون التفكير بالحفاظ على الآثار أعتقد فكرة يعني نوعا ما منقوصة، لأنه ممكن أنه ينشئ هذا الجيل ويكبر هذا الجيل وبالتالي ما يجد هاي الآثار، لأنه إحنا الآن الآثار أمام ريسك كبير، يعني خاصة فيما يخص الأصالة والتكامل، يعني الانتجريتي للمواقع الأثرية مهدد جدا. وأنا أحب أشيد يعني بصراحة بمحاضرة الدكتورة شيرين، محاضرة رائعة جدا ودور مهم كان حقيقة. فإحنا حتى نأهل، حتى نثبت فكرة التوعية، الجانب التوعوي لازم نحرز عدة نقاط. النقطة الأولى، أول مرة لازم يكون عندنا مواقع أثرية مؤهلة سياحيا حتى نستقطب السواح أو نستقطب المختصين. المواقع هذه اللي يتم تأهيلها لازم ما يتم تأهيلها إلا أن تتوفر لها خطة إدارة تتضمن الريسك مانجمنت بصراحة، لأنه الأغلب المواقع الأثرية، يعني إحنا أستاذ كرار قارن بين المواقع العراقية والمواقع المصرية، ونحن نعلم أن المواقع المصرية منقبة بنسبة أكثر من 95% بصراحة، لكن المواقع الأثرية ما تتجاوز 12 إلى 15% ما منقب من المواقع الأثرية. وبالتالي حتى نحافظ، حتى ننشر التوعية، لازم احنا نحافظ على المواقع الأثرية. هاي نقطة. النقطة الأهم من توعية الجيل الواعد اللي هم الأطفال أو الشباب، احنا لازم نتعامل حاليا كتعامل طارئ مع الستيك هولدرز والسكان المحليين بصراحة للمواقع الأثرية، لأنه احنا حتى نوفر جو حضاري، حتى نحافظ على الهوية الحضارية للبلد، قلنا لازم نحافظ على المواقع الأثرية. وبالتالي أنا أعتقد أنه لو تضمنون مشروعكم، المشروع التوعوي، تضمنون فقرة الستيك هولدرز والسكان المحليين، لأنه هذا مهم جدا. أول مرة خلينا نمسك المواقع، نعد خطة مستقبلية للمواقع، لإدارة الموقع، إدارة المخاطر المهددة للمواقع الأثرية، حتى نتمكن من الإبقاء على المواقع الأثرية والإبقاء على الهوية التراثية الثقافية للبلد. وشكرا جزيلا، يعني هاي كفكرة مقتضبة، وما أعرف يمكن أطلت على دكتور مهيار الترجمة راح أتعبك. شكرا جزيلا دكتور.
Okay, I'll translate the question. I'm not sure who's going to answer that. Maybe we can take 2 or 3 questions at a time. So Ahmed mentioned that he works at the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage. He's currently working on the joint file between Saudi and Iraq regarding Darab Zubaydah, which is an old pilgrimage route between the two countries. So he's leading that. But I also know he works at Nipur in Diwani, so he leads some of the work there. And his main point was about raising awareness, but this should be done with the view, with a vision, particularly around the protection of archaeological sites. The raising awareness should be done with a view to the protection and safeguarding of archaeological sites, so that these sites are already that there's an infrastructure of support to protect them. Things like a management plan is also necessary. And also, he mentioned something about Egypt having a higher rate of excavation compared to Iraq. The very low rate of excavations in Iraq, 12-15% of any major cultural archaeological site, is also something to be considered. And we should also take in large part take into consideration the local communities as part of that process of site management and protection. and that this should be done with a view to the not just the protection but also the continuity of these sites. Shall we take one or two more questions? There's a question for Shireen. Dr. Shireen, is there a question for you? Let's have a look. I don't see that question. Okay. I would like to thank all speakers for their talks. I have a question, Dr. You've mentioned that the restoration approach is preferable according to the antiquities. Could you please explain or elaborate if you can recommend any references on restoration work in Iraq? You've mentioned that the restoration approach is preferable according to the antiquities law. I'm not sure that means preferable.
Yes, you can check the law number 55, 2002. This is the specific law of antiquities and heritage in Iraq. You can see many articles in this law highlighting more about restoration of the site. So yeah, that's why most of the archaeologists preferring this approach for conservation. This is my opinion, and based on my contact with many of them archaeologists in my context within the projects. Yes.
Yeah. Can I just quickly ask you a question on that, because it's related to the question. So the current 2002 law, as you've mentioned, it has a preference for restoration. What ways do you see that could be reformed with a view to what in your presentation you said there are perhaps alternative approaches to the protection of these sites?
Yes, sure. There are a lot of alternatives, a lot of strategies that you can follow and to protect for example, buildings or structures. You don't need for all the sites to apply restoration. It's always based on the data that you collect from the sites and the type of the value of the sites, because the sites might have different types of value. So you do need to discuss all of these values together and then decide which strategy is the base for intervention.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shireen.
Yeah. So for example, I can give, if you allow me, I can give an example. So for example, here most of the archaeologists were preferring to restore Qubbahan School, which is the most important site in Amedi zone. And we have had discussion with the international experts. It was last month. I was invited to this discussion by the director of antiquity here in Duhok city. So we were discussing the best approach for Qubbahan School. So the international experts, they were also choosing preservation, as some of our experts in our context. But however, most of the archaeologists were complaining and saying that we have to restore the sites, very important. We have to get benefit from it. We have to make it museum, and a lot of things, a lot of ideas together, which is not fit to the current condition of the site.
Thank you, Dr. Shireen. If Karar or Mabast or Ali wants to answer Ahmed's question about the area of raising awareness and is something tied to the protection of sites. Also, some of the other points he mentioned. Mabast, do you want to say something about the point Ahmed made?
Dr. Mahia, unfortunately, I couldn't get the main points of his question. Sorry, repeat it.
His point was about raising awareness needs to be done with a view to a vision for the protection of sites rather than something that is general, but it should be focused on the protection the direct protection of cultural and archaeological sites. So it should be done with a view to the current situation in the country, where cultural and archaeological sites need to be protected and safeguarded. If we can refer to maybe Ali or Karar, or if we have other questions from the audience. Are there any other questions? Let's see.
No.
There's someone who's raised their hand. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions regarding the presentations from today, from this session today?
سوري دكتور مهيار، آسف إذا بالإمكان أوجه سؤال للبروفيسور إلينورا، لأنه أنا الحلقة اللي فاتت ردت أسأل وما صار مجال بصراحة، يعني الميتينج
Yeah, he wants to ask you a question, Eleanor. Go ahead, Ahmed.
هل تتضمن المنحة الدراسية لشبكة النهرين أعمال التنقيب أو المسوحات الأثرية أو الصيانة، أعمال الصيانة، الأعمال الحقلية بشكل خاص؟ يعني إذا أحد
I can
يقدم.
answer that actually. The question is whether the Nahrain network supports excavation work in the country.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Are there any questions we have? Let's see. Are there any questions that are written? Okay. So if there are no other questions, we can wrap it up. If any one of our speakers wants to say anything, anything to add, final comments? No.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If Ellen, if you want to wrap up the session.
I think I've said what I wanted to say to our very eloquent speakers. Thank you. And so it just remains for me to say thank you to you, Dr. Mahyar, for organising this very important and interesting meeting. And as always, to Zainab behind the scenes, who takes care of all the technical aspects and all the messaging and getting everybody organised and all the promotion. As she's put in the chat, if you're not receiving our newsletters or following us on Facebook or YouTube or anything else, please do, because we have lots of things happening all the time, lots of opportunities to get involved in the network. We should have said, I mean, we mentioned that Dr. Shireen is on our management committee, but Kakma Bast is one of our former visiting scholars. And we do take the word network, Shabakat, really seriously. We try to build community and share knowledge between us. So if you want to be part of the gang, then please do join. It's always lovely to have more people involved. So thank you all. Very good night to you. And I hope we will see each other again soon, either on screen or in person.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the